All right, so I hope everybody's had a pretty dope weekend and a pretty good Sunday. Um, we're going into an interesting week. We had a nice start of a bullish uptrend over the past couple of days and all. And the big question is, do we keep marching to the upside or do we trade sideways for the rest of the week? So, um, I liked it last week. I like the close. I'm kind of feeling the formations. Hey, Papa, I'm gonna mute you for a little bit. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. But we had a pretty good March up this week, and I got ES right now. ES up, and as you can see, it's a bit unnatural of a run that we had leading up to this week. Probably very low volume, very overextended right now. So, are we done running? That's a very good question. I got all my levels that I want. So as of right now, it does look like we can continue to march to the upside. All right, we got a bit of a cup forming right here. See how we consolidate going into tomorrow. These levels right here, kind of this range, it'll be super important going into tomorrow because we're gonna want to see these levels hold as support. All right, so right now, we're kind of on the tip of the iceberg as far as the support and resistance and all. If this holds up, like I said, we should see another little shot up. We may break these highs just a bit more, but once we start getting in these purple zones, which does illustrate as like completely oversold. But once we start getting up here, then I'll be looking for a bit of chop or profit taking. Whether we get it early in the week or we get it towards the end of the week, and we go and retest maybe some levels down here. So, like I said, right now it's kind of a hit or miss type of week. You know, we could be choppy and we see some individual tickers start to pop off and, other tickers kind of crumble just to keep ES and NQ kind of in the chop zone. So we'll see how that works. And then if not, if we get that big spike to the upside to start the week off, that'd be good. But by Wednesday, if we get up here, we'll be um looking for some profit taking to end the week or some a pullback back down to this area right here. So like I said, it's kind of hard to tell right now. We did close off. ES did close out previous week bullish by a lot. So we got a massive red candle. The only thing is if you hide that, these were some levels I drew off last week, which was showing resistance levels. Here's one of the highs that we need to break, and then this was the next one. We exploded past that, so here we are. This area right here is probably our last real support zone. So let me say it like that, just because um, this big candle has a lot of room to explore as it works its way back down. It's gonna want to come there eventually, but like I said, where we are right now is a very intricate time. So if we pump, you can expect a lot of low volume, and things of that nature. And then if we fall off a little early, then we're gonna probably end the month off pretty green. All right, so um, that's what we're kind of looking at. We ended the week off green, so Bulls are in control going into this week. And like I said, zooming back in on the daily, this is kind of going to be our chop zone. We want to see this serve as support and go ahead and push us up higher to the upside towards 78.33. All right. What I think Friday closed green. Yeah, so Friday closed green. I don't really see any engulfing candles. It's more of a chop zone and then a break of previous day's highs Friday. NQ is pretty much the same. We do have a bit of resistance though on NQ. So that means semiconductors, this is really going to affect them. Well, semiconductors are going to really affect NQ in the way that it performs. simply because this index is made up of mostly, the MUs, the AMDs, the NVIDIAs, the semiconductor market. So if they have trouble this week, then you can expect Qs to either have trouble or kind of stalemate right here. And if they do exceptionally well, which I have been saying, SMH, which is the index for semiconductors, they have been doing extremely well too, which is why we've been seeing this massive run along with everything else in the market. It's actually been performing very, very well. So, um, like I said, NQ has a bit of resistance. Friday finished green, the weekly candle finished green. And as you can see, there's a complete imbalance right now between SPY and NQ because of the holdings. Like we're kind of seeing a sharp recovery and a chase toward all-time highs on NQ. But if you go back and look at ES, we're already breaking out of that chop zone and going to establish new all-time highs. So, like I said, there's a bit of decoupling between the two indexes now. Um, One day we might see, SPY up $3. Well, let's say $10, and then NQ might be up only 7, or vice versa. So we really have to pay attention to the semiconductor side of things when we're looking at NQ, just to see how they're performing as a whole. So um, I'm not really seeing anything other than a nice recovery. This was one of the indicators that showed us before the actual drop was going to happen. Well, what I pointed out was this big red candle right here. And if we didn't break these highs, then it was going to be a slow chop, or at least some type of downside just drop heading into the coming days, and that's what we saw. So this price action that we're getting right now, we're actually owed that. The market is owed that, simply because buyers have been accumulating every time we reach one of these pivotal zones. So, like I said, NQ has a bit more to pump through, has a few more walls. Um, if I had to say which one would be most effective, it'll probably be the zone up here. So once we break out of this area up here, which is that 30,777 range, once we break that and start making new all-time highs, then all of these red are gonna eventually switch to green support zones. So we need to really break out of here, which is probably gonna rely on, I think Nvidia earnings is on the 26th. Um, so they're right around the corner. They're already looking to chase all-time highs and probably pump beyond that post ER. We'll see. If not, um, it's gonna be interesting. Nvidia earnings will be so. Like I said, as far as tech goes, we need to see it actually attempt all-time highs and break beyond that in order to establish some new support and completely eliminate the bears out right now. So um, expect some chop. Definitely expect chop this week, or light pumps and harder dumps, if that makes sense. So a couple of things that I want to look over going into this week. You guys already saw that I traded Tesla Friday, so I do like Tesla. I'm watching Qualcomm because it is one of the semiconductor sectors that hasn't overran or still is fairly priced. I'm gonna look at SpaceX because we did see a nice recovery post earnings on the price action. It went down as I think almost below $100, and is already back pushing 133. And then the last one that I'm gonna check out is Robinhood, simply because we're seeing some recovery in the crypto market, and the hood follows very closely to Bitcoin and their price action. So I'm gonna check out that one, and that'll kind of be my crypto look for that side of the market also. All right, so let's look at SpaceX first. All right, I don't know if a lot of you guys have been checking out SpaceX or um, paying any close attention to it, but it's severely below IPO opening price, which was around like 150. 149. So post ER, it dropped. It came as low as 106, which that's where we've seen most of the support at anyways. So right around here is where we've seen a lot of the bottom forming around. And then we retested these levels after the earnings call, and the next thing you know, we're skyrocketing up. So if you're watching or you pay any close attention to some of the engulfing candles that I've been calling out, that's what we're looking at right now on SpaceX. No SpaceX till December. I agree, because personally I like to keep a 6 month rule, but it's just something about this one that just I feel like they could just completely do what they want to do with it. All right, so this engulfing candle right here, that's gonna be a good setup to let you know that buyers close out the week extremely strong. All right, so what did I just mark? I marked that, and I should have marked this one. All right, so with engulfing candles like this, typically you want to mark out the lows and the highs, which is 104 and 133. So the volatility is extremely there. Seeing a stock move just about $30 in a week for it to be, not even a market that long, extremely volatile. So going into this week, we definitely want to see if this is 116, 115, because that has been a very, very important price level for SpaceX. So this is something that you really want to pay attention to as far as price action goes and structure. Price typically tends to get bought up at 115 or below it as of right now. I always say you play the trend until the trend breaks. If we break below 104, then it could be more price discovery that goes into the whole process. But as of right now, since 115 and 104 has, held structure super fairly well, it survived post DR. It showed that bulls are continuously stepping up right there. Um, Now we're just looking for a play above 133. All right. And actually, I'll be looking for post IPO prices, which is around like 152. That'll probably be an important level that I will watch as far as contracts goes. Now, last time I looked at these contracts, the bid and ask price, first, they were extremely pricey, I believe. And then I think the spreads on it were a bit wide also. So let me let me look at what's going on right now. So it said 134. These contracts are priced typically. All right, so it looked like these ones are starting at about $800. This one's for August 21st. If I look at one for August 14th, that's starting around like 600. So about $200. You can add a little bit more time in between weeks. All right. Um, let's throw my indicator notes back up, and it's a bit busy, but let's look at what will happen. All right, so I already highlighted that green lines are already showing that it's a ton of support right here. Um, we're looking at resistance right now between 140 and 135. Okay, so this right here is gonna be our next, kind of chop zone unless we just completely gap up above that and want to chase this 149 level. So honestly, if I was going out the money, if we just wanted to, let's say, just play a starter position just to see if we can make some quick bucks and go with the 140. Let's look at the strike prices. All right, so 149. So if you want to see and just make some quick money, and fight theta, pretty much, um, the 149 call, which was that would be probably the cheapest one, or the most furthest one out the money that I would touch. It looks like it closed around 255, 260. Good positions, starter positions on this one looks like it'll be below 200. So Um, that would be something that I would look for. I'm adding that to my watch list right now, going into this week. And right now, I'll be looking for discounts between, well, not between, but below 194 on SpaceX. And this is just for Friday. They got as low as 30 cents and they closed all the way up to 260. Now, it's not gonna, the returns might not be as quick, or it might not hold profits as good as it did last week, simply because um, the theta is gonna kick in. Looking at the Greeks right now, it's about a 24 delta and a negative 0.62 theta. So actually, it's not that bad, but it has an IV of 125. So the volatility is extremely there. But you know, the good thing about paying attention to the prices and having strategic levels about what prices to buy in and buy out, that normally fights the IV and the theta a little bit. Because if you get in at the bottom, um, eventually when the price does run, when you see me post my screenshots of take profits and stuff, it'll eventually come back and retest these, and you can take profit or trim off at some of these zones. All right, but for now, like I said, I'm gonna watch them below $200, and then there's a average in opportunity at 84. And the reason why I would be confident in averaging down on these is simply because I would be watching that weekly bullish engulfing candle. Yeah, that we marked out. So that's why I would confidently play calls on this week, is because I would be playing between those levels, and I will also be betting on those contract prices that I was looking at. Unless we break 104.69, calls should work, and we should see they break a structure above 140, and then possibly you'll see 149.44. And then our next resistance level is above that. We'll deal with that when it comes, which would be around 156 to 164. But these white lines right here, these are going to be our magnet points for this week. All right, you see, once it started breaking above the white lines, the volatility got more extreme. Same as you seen up here. Once it broke below 149, the selling just started tremendously. And now we're coming back up to see if the buyers are heavy enough to start breaking structure. So, like I said, I wouldn't go no higher than 149. Nice bottom between here. Bulls are liking to step in around 115 or lower. And if we're going to play contracts, I wouldn't even go 139. Like I said, I would go 149, and they're reasonably priced, and we should get that easy wall break with the right type of volatility and the volume. All right, someone needs to be muted. I just did. So next up is Tesla. So we played Tesla Friday, and it played out fairly well. Now it's been underperforming since post earnings. All right. Um, it's been underperforming since post earnings. All right. We dropped down to a low as 296. And from there, they stepped in and they bought the price up. And right now we're sitting at about 330. So those calls worked out extremely well. Friday, the volatility was there, even though the market kind of had a little hiccup. Um, it dropped down to what, 323, 324 ish, before it started to make its move back up to the upside. Yeah. So like I said, it held extremely well Friday, and that's what showed me a ton of strength that it was gonna run even more. So 327 was the lowest that it got. So I don't see any extreme two candle patterns right now. All I see is a major price recovery Here we are at 373. Prices dropped down to 342 and then sold off since then. So I mean, this is a healthy recovery on a long term stock. So it's not gonna be like an Adobe or something like that to where it's dropping because of the its age in the market. You know, lack of innovation or something. Boring company. Tesla is gonna is I mean he's Elon. He's gonna keep the media's attention as far as in that world goes. And he's always gonna be relevant. So even if people don't like the Tesla cars, anything of that nature, the man behind the plan likes to keep his name relevant. So the stocks that's connected to him they're always gonna perform at some rate. You feel me? So like I said, we saw prices come down to 296 before they getting bought up, and it's recovering halfway towards its goal of 342. So um I signaled 360 calls just to see if we can at least make it up to the 351, 352. Because once we get here, by the time we get here, it should be a straight just squeeze towards 365 before we just see a ton of resistance. Because this is where my red actually starts. All right, everything else between these are gonna be magnet points, and with the right type of volume, this is why I choose to take shorter expirations on stocks like these because we're not really facing any chop. If anything is gonna get bought up down here extremely quick, like we saw, and then it's gonna squeeze its way up to go ahead and get the bears out of there that's looking to continue to short and keep pushing it towards the upside. So um I'm liking the 350 and 360. You're gonna notice I always shoot for the second and third outside of, my first target, just to be able to get in a little bit cheaper and make more monies with the right type of timing. All right, but 342, 351, and 365, those are gonna be my three targets for this week. And if we look at the 360 calls, like I said, if it gets a 365, that's still $5 that it can go in the money, and you can still make a little profit, some nice gains on those. But if we look at this week's 365, I be having to check my calendar to remember the Fridays. 14. All right, so if we look at those 365 calls for Friday, check that out. So right now those contracts were closing at around $50. All right. And Fridays when I just said, all right, I think I'm a bit bullish on Tesla just because I'm seeing how well it's performing while the rest of the market was kind of, up and down. Um, it's held up extremely well at $50, and it has a nice recovery with the right type of pump to go up to 340. All right. It's a big gap, and a lot of this came from the gap down on from the earnings, but most of the money's pretty much sucked out. Anything is negative numbers right now, so most of the money's already drained out of there, which is why we've been seeing prices hold up at the $50 mark for these 365 calls. Now it's going a bit under. Why? Because of the theta and the price not really moving Wednesday and Thursday. And like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see how prices react Friday because it's due for some movement. All right. So like I said, right now, if we get the right type of volume and movement on it, this $50 could easily go for 340, and then from 340, I don't know if it's gonna push as high as 1500. If it does, we just made a killer banger on Tesla calls. But even if we went down to the next one, I think I said what was it, 342, 350 something, 351. So even if we drop down one more and we went to the 350 strikes, which would give it a better chance of going into money and then actually like printing some crazy percentage gains. All right, so since this one is a bit closer, you can see it held up a lot better, around $95. So the same with this one. If this pops, it'll go from 95 to 485, and then if it has some type of massive squeeze above 350, and it goes to that 365, then we'll see these contracts start to print extreme percentages to the upside. You feel me? Up to 2 grand. So from 100 to 2 grand on whatever type of catalyst, or somewhere somehow it moves very very well, we'll see these profits go insane. So let's keep our eyes on Tesla. I already got both 350s and 360s already watch listed. And these are for the 14th. Now, if you want to go out longer, which, that's never a bad idea, the next Friday is the 21st, 365s. The longer out that you go, the better that you might as well go ahead and go to the very tip top of the out the money strikes. But even with this one, it's been holding up well around 125 to 120. And this can go from 200 to 1600. So once again, it's recovering from the ER. We've already seen a couple of stocks recover fairly well. I mean, if you go and you look at Google, and then you go and you look at Meta, both of those have recovered fairly well post ER, filled that gap back up to the upside. I think Google actually gapped up after that, completely squeezing out bears, which is why it's kind of trading to the downside now. But uh, what I've been noticing, the pattern that I've been noticing is that these ER drops that's been happening has been bought up very quickly. Even TSM, just to veer out for a second, I'm gonna show you what's been happening. And these are some that, patterns that you should watch out for. So, you know, it's been doing fairly terrible since its ER, and it's actually trading back up to retest those levels and continue pushing. If we look at Google, like I said, it gapped down after earnings. They snatched this up. They didn't just buy; they snatched it up, closed the gap, stepped in big, and then gapped up. So this is why they're actually coming down to retest some of these pivotal zones. It's approaching a buy level. These are gonna be levels for good swings, good buy and holds. 352, 345, and 337. So it has tremendous upside value. You said Meta needs help. Meta does need help, but it could be getting ready to happen. That was something that I marked up that I've been watching on Meta. Like I said, I got at least a 613 um, target. After earnings, it tremendously fell. You see, he had 3 weeks, no, 3 days, 4 days of just buying, 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 and then we got like a nice little bottom right here forming on the 4 hour. So, like I said, it could be headed toward this next gap right here too. It's already filled one. It's filled this one. Now it's kind of trading to the upside. See how we low to the downside here before it just boom. We might be just hanging out right here, just accumulating buyers. And I had we had some 700 calls that I just let go, and it decided to spike its way up to 596. But it could be getting ready for a next nice move. I mean, if we can have a week full of green like this, what's to stop it now from running up and retesting this 622 level? From 622 to 640. Once it starts pushing beyond these red levels, I mean, it can continue to go. So just zooming out, I mean, Meta. Meta's good for these extreme volatile moves back up. This was actually a gift to us um below that 600 level. And once we get back above 600, then I think we would be going back up to retest these upper 660s. So scrolling out big. Yeah, over the past months, below 600 has been a gift. And once it gets towards the mid 700s, that's where they've been selling off at. But just to go back to Tesla, its buy up is probably coming to fill that gap post ER. All right. So one of my underpriced semiconductors that I'm looking at is Qualcomm. All right. Over the past months, well, mostly this half of the year, it hasn't been performing up to its standards, along with the rest of the chips. Okay. It's a bit undervalued, like I said, in my opinion, but it's filling these gaps right here. So we got this one right here that is filling. There's another one down here that may happen on the next bearish cycle if it doesn't build any support. But like I said, if this is the time to squeeze out and kind of mimic this extreme sell off right here, now would be the time to look at starters. All right. There's a ton of resistance and choppiness right here below 189. All right. There's a lot of walls we have to break. All right. But the thing is, like I said, if we can catch this and it is a nice little squeeze to the upside simply because the sector's doing well and it's kind of performing along with the sector. But if it happens and we go into an end of the year rally, this one will work out and play out fairly well, and you'll be able to make a lot of money with a little bit to start off with on this one right here. So right now, I will probably be looking at maybe, let's see how the 170 starts off. And good, they make it easy. They only show you Friday strikes. I mean Friday expiration dates anyway. So let's look at the 175. Cause we're at 168 right now. So they're still undervalued right now, below 500. What else did we have? I think I had 199 up there too. Yeah. All right. And 199. So this is one of the ones, it's out the money, but it's one of those I didn't think it was going to be able to reach this zone. Let's do 195. All right. So check this out. It's a 195 strike. It has the opportunity to go with a low volume squeeze. All right. Right now, this contract is around $200, and the buyers typically step in around 145. So where it's at right now, yeah, I'm already believing it's gonna come back up and retest this 375 level. So right off top, that's about $170 return, and we can catch it at 200 or below. And then if it comes back down, let's say it has a choppy day, the theta kicks in a little bit. This is a September 4th. We probably can find one with a little bit more volume because the candles do look a little spotty. But if we catch this one below 145, then you got a couple of weeks for it to go back, retest these levels, and then still get back to this 370. Because these levels aren't gonna reset until this frame is over with. Let me see if the other ones have better volume on it. Nah, they all kind of spotty, and the reason why is because of how far out the money it is. See, this one has a bit more volume. You see how it prints more candles, and it's a bit better. These are August 21st, so next Friday's expiration date. But look at the risk to return. Sometimes if you see me play like a whole bunch of calls super far out the money like I did with Meta, I think we was doing it with BA 225s, and it's sitting at I think BA was like 240, 234, something like that. But I was grabbing those contracts at like 10, $15 a piece. And I was getting quick returns, quick 100% pops, $100, $150 on those. And we was eating them up. Little did we know, if we would have kept holding them little fuckers, them $25 calls probably would have went for $200, $300 a piece. So, um, Gray Ripple, what's up, man? Glad you chiming in. I think I think Ripple, you was playing those BA cards with me also, weren't you? Those 225 cards a couple of weeks ago, and now prices are sitting at like 239. So this is another example that I'm showing you guys with Qualcomm. Right now, they're so far, it's unexpected for it to go because of the structure that it has to break. But if it does, you can get $200 worth of 2 week out calls that can hit, and you'll see these $60 calls go up to $400 a piece. So this is why I'm putting Qualcomm on my list, simply because if it goes, it goes, and it didn't take a lot of money to get there. All right. So pushing back to the charts, like I said, this was August 21st, 195 calls. If we go back to Qualcomm on the chart, super out the money strike will be 199. We went 195 just to go ahead and give it a couple of dollars to go in the money, and still right now it's opening up flat. Overnight market just opened 701, so it just opened a minute ago. Prices are sitting at 167.94, so it's opening relatively flat, but I do have 171 on my list for the next target, and then we need to see some structure breaking. We need to see it start marching up, breaking some of these critical levels, giving us new support zones. Okay. If we go back here, we see that there was a gap up. Buyers are buying this gap back up. You can see if we take these off, let's hide it. If we take that off, you can see where most of the structure is from the last time, right up in here between 180 and 167. And we should see some price action start playing around here. All right. Yeah. So keep an eye out for this one, see how it plays out. It's creeping up a little bit, cent by cent as we talk right now. But it should be a nice one. Okay. SpaceX, what I told you, is up $2 already. All right, Gio, man. You have a great night, bro. And catch you tomorrow, hopefully. Yeah, SpaceX is already up a little bit overnight. Tesla's up, not really a dollar, a couple cents. So it's opening relatively flat. And then my last one that I wanted to look at for tonight was Robinhood. All right, so I'm starting to get a bit bullish on Robinhood if the crypto market decides that it wants to, get on a good foot. And for Robinhood, I want to see prices get above like this 97, 98 range. All right, because that's where a lot of the structure, a lot of the selling has been, happening. So as you can see, this is kind of where support came, then it melted, then it retested, and it melted more. So this is kind of gonna be our staircase to the upside that we want to see in order to show that all right, bulls are starting to step in. They're starting to make this staircase back to the upside. We're probably gonna have some buyers step in going into these coming weeks. Okay, so let's see. So remove those. Just remove those. Yeah, we kind of all hoping crypto kind of steps up because, I've been saying over the past couple of weeks, the market did extremely well, but crypto just didn't catch none of that fire really. So maybe if the market, allows money to rotate back into the crypto side, we can see some of these stocks has been underperforming well long enough start actually moving and allow some people to take some profits. Allow some people to really take some profits. So last month we were playing, was it last month or probably yeah, it had to be the beginning of last month. We were playing with um Robin Hood looking for 115 calls. So it had to be, yeah, July 21st, 22nd, before we actually seen the meltdown. So I was shooting for these 115 calls because I was wanting to see it go back and retest this chop zone up here. We got halfway there, stalled out. Here's the gap down. It stalled out a little bit above this gap down. Let me zoom in a bit. Where we gap down right here and it stalled a little bit above that before completely giving up the gains and more. And here we are. That move from 100 to under 90 happened so quick, extremely quick. It melted one day, and then after that, it never got any good footing back underneath it. So, reason for that being, if you zoom out, of course, you see how it completely squeezed out the bears to the upside. All right, well, this was happening. We were getting the meltdown. We tested a little support here at around $93. It didn't hold, of course, and then we went and we shredded on down to get the rest of this move over here to get it down there, and we still didn't get out of all of it. Actually, they stepped in maybe a dollar or so right before the support level that I got marked out right here. So, like I said, here we are. We're kind of trading sideways. I want to see prices get above this 95, 96 and actually push $100. This 100 is once we get above $100, that'll be a nice little structure change for me, just because we're retesting some older levels of support back in June. Yeah, so these were critical levels back then. Um, Bull stepped in very well and pushed the prices up back up towards 116, 115. Here we are retesting these zones. So, like I said, we want to see it march its way up and get that $100 mark at least. Close that so we can see some prices rotate, um, and this actually becomes some support because we want this chop zone to serve as the dip prices for the next move up to retest up here around 108. All right, so my out the money strikes right now, we don't even have to really go that far out. We can go to um $100 strikes. All right, and let's go 2 weeks out and see how those are priced, because they should be priced in fairly well. Let's go $100. Okay, so the great thing that we're seeing with Robinhood is it's catching up. It's recovering fairly quickly at the prices below 100. Um, that's kind of the cycle that we've been seeing with MSTR, as far as the pump and dumps happen very quickly, but at the same time, a certain level is holding and serving as a floor. Just because, all right, once it gets to these particular prices, it's just too good to be true. Let's go ahead and start scooping them up. All right, so that's kind of what we're seeing with Robinhood under $100, really under $90. If the prices drop below that, buyers tend to step in extremely heavy. All right, so right now we're seeing contracts for $100 strike. We're seeing them hold up around 165. Okay, if they dip below there, they're getting bought up fairly quick. These contracts are typically selling back off once it gets above 300 as of right now, and that's because of the consolidation. You really not seeing Robinhood make any extreme higher highs or lower lows, so the contracts typically ranges the same way the stock prices do also. So Like I said, if we get in right now at a right 200 or 165, we're able to swing those, hold these a whole lot comfortably, just because we know, all right, we're ranging in a certain price. They're gonna eventually gain value because that price, the strike price that we choosing, is just an attractive price right now. All right, so like I said, 200, 207, 165. These are very good strike prices and contract prices to buy. They're undervalued. You can make some nice money on the staircase back up. Say if it pops and it gaps up one day, these $200 calls or 165, wherever we are able to get in, these calls can make a nice pop, $400 profit, $200 profit very easily. And it's gonna eventually come back up here if we get a nice rally. If we break above that $100 mark, it's gonna go into money extremely fast, and that's when we'll see that delta actually start working in our favor against the theta. So this is a very good one that we're gonna watch this upcoming week. Keep our eyes on just to see how we can make it. If we want to go risky for the week, just because it's Monday, we got a couple days to flip something. $100 for this Friday. Those contracts right now are holding up. Looks like around 95, 85. What is it? 88. So here's a very low risk, high reward trade. If we get in right now where it's around $100, make a nice pop up to 350 and then possibly up to 554. Um, when I go Friday strikes, I don't necessarily think that we're gonna pop to the white lines unless it has an extreme catalyst. Um, but if we do, that's a quick $600 return on $100. So easy money if you know what you're looking for. Like I said, we'll be looking for structure shifts on hood, just to solidify it. We want to see it push um, that $100 mark. And maybe if we go long enough out on expiration dates, it'll be an easy one, kind of like we did on NVIDIA and Palantir. That way we can just hold it leading up to a catalyst and it'll play out in our favor. Geo was in here. He closed out Nvidia calls, 215 calls for 1,000%. And when I alerted them, they was $78. And they closed, I think, close to last time I looked, it was maybe like 900 something. So think about loading up on those calls while they super cheap like that, and then holding them through a catalyst to where it pops, goes for 1,000%. Yeah, right now those contracts are at 1020, so $1,000. And when I alerted them, they were at $78. So my main thing going into these past couple of months, I've been catching a lot of the trades before they actually, before the catalyst rolls into them. We just have to be holding them a couple of days before they move. Apple has been one of them. Meta's one of them. Like I said, we're just starting to kind of play around with Tesla. Looks like Hood's already getting a bit of a pop. It's up 94.16. So, like, all of these stocks have great potential. SpaceX is still pushing. Is at 136. Qualcomm is at 169. So it's up $2. Everything I'm putting on the watch list right now, hold in value. Tesla 330. So like I said, my thing is I'm trying to catch stocks that's undervalued already. So that way we don't have to spend a ton of money. Because nobody just really likes watching contracts burn a hole in your pocket. And especially if you're not buying in at the right time and you actually having to buy the dip. My goal is for y'all not to really have to buy the dip. You feel me? I want you guys to be in at the bottom, not risk a whole bunch of capital, and put a lot of money in your pockets with the way that we're trying to trade here. Um, these 360 calls for Tesla, man, they're gonna look amazing, amazing. If everything goes like planned, these 360 calls are gonna be dope. You feel me? So, um, those are my four stocks that I'm watching going into this upcoming week. I want to know, dude. Anybody got any stocks that they want looked at that we could possibly go and dissect, break down, give you some advice or anything of that nature? All right, cool. So, um, I didn't want to hold you guys all night tonight. Trying to, like I said, he was gonna try to make it. That's funny. Trying to make it. Y'all didn't catch on to that, did you? But he uh he told me he was spending time with the family and that he was gonna try to, stop everything. Uh, Let me unmute you, Papa John. What's up, man? All right, I got you unmuted now.
Oh, there we go. You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. What I'm liking about what you're showing on the dailies with Tesla right now to go along with your thesis there. Looking at the stock price chart right now. That is a beautiful cup and handle that's sitting there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you were pulling up the your option charts, they were a perfect double bottom that was set and waiting to go up.
Yeah, yeah.
And looking at my chart on mine right now with the Tesla daily, the current candle right now is showing a bullish MACD with a bullish reversal to follow suit with it.
Okay. All right. Hey, that's amazing when two confluences can line up. So
Yep.
that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm hoping we can hold that energy overnight and this can carry
Yeah.
into it. It's gonna be a nice print. And hopefully it doesn't move too fast. That way, if anybody wants to hop in or wants to follow suit tomorrow, the prices hopefully haven't gapped up too much. Because I'm always looking for everybody to be able to hop in. I haven't really traded SPY and Qs much, the indexes, but these individual stocks, they've really been popping. So I think tomorrow's gonna be extremely, extremely interesting.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to be watching those at the opening bell tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm I'm hoping I was hoping I could signal something for SpaceX also. It's already at 136. So going into tomorrow, if we could, even if it gaps up, hopefully we can maybe retest like 135 or 132. I doubt we come too far below that, but if we can come back and retest those levels, that could be a nice opportunity to catch costs with that up to 149. So keep your eyes on that because 140 is a key level going into tomorrow, and it's already $4 from that. So that's one of my early movers, and both of them having to do with Elon. They could really run a race together. You know what I'm saying? So watch out for both of those. Let me see. Robinhood is still pretty flat. Qualcomm is up 169. Let's see what Nvidia is doing since the 24-hour market is open now. All right, so Nvidia is kind of flat. It's up a little bit, but it closed out pretty good. Took out previous day's highs, so it's marching well. We'll want to see it attack 232, 236, and then if you want to act right going into ER on the 26, 241. So if you want to hop in right now to play Nvidia earnings, when I said it was the 26. So if you want to hop in early to play Nvidia earnings, 140 strikes. I said 140. 240 strikes. Oh, these are the motherfuckers volatile. So it could chop. Um, yeah, these contracts look like it could chop. Right now they're chopping above 400. This is where it's selling off at. they're stepping in around 245. So we can see if we can see these contracts, these August 28th contracts, 240 strikes, if we can catch these, and I'm finna add this to the watch list right now because I'm probably gonna try to hold something through earnings. See if I can catch another Palantir. Yeah. All right. So looking at this one, and that's crazy. I'm looking at the options chain right now on Robinhood. They haven't even written contracts for 247 and a half, 242 and a half, 237 and a half. So they have contracts there, but they haven't even written contracts for these half prices yet. But right now these 240s look good. The fact these prices are stacked like this, if it goes below 245, that'll be a decent hold. And then leading up to earnings, you will see the premium pop. You'll be in before the IV starts doing God knows what it does. And you can be in either for the ride or um, the ride might already come beforehand. But 245, 210, and then a ton of buyers below $150. But that'd be the strike price that I would shoot for if I was wanting to play Nvidia into earnings. Simply because it's gonna go chase these. It's chasing highs at 232 and 236, and then if it breaks out, then 240 should be next on the list. Those contracts should be good and juicy by then if it does go up. So I like that one. Check out Hims. Yeah, I look at it, and I've been bullish on Hims for maybe about a week, and it's kind of been choppy. Maybe because you know how United Healthcare and Johnson, Eli Lilly been trading. All right, so I drew this out maybe last time, but the chart's still being respected. Okay. We didn't get a breakout, but we did come back and retest this uptrend right here. It broke it. Buyer stepped in, is bringing it back in the trend. So two things can happen right now. It can continue to chop sideways, and here's the catalyst that it needs: earnings for the 10th. Oh shit, that's tomorrow, ain't it? So tomorrow after close, that's gonna be interesting. Uh, how does it normally perform post earnings? Well, yeah. So here's last earnings. What did it do? Big gap down. Earnings didn't move. Whatever it did, it moved afterwards. All right, so Hims, this is the only time it looks like it really just moved on earnings. Everything else tends to look like a catalyst move. Okay, well now it moved extremely bad. So I mean, all right, so ER catalysts for these are hit and miss sometimes. It might pop, it might not. As of right now, we got a ton of support between 30 and 31.65 right now. So this big ass candle right here is what's keeping everything suppressed. Actually, it was this candle. Yeah, because these are where the sellers actually didn't hold anything, and it had a drastic sell off that day. And once it did that, you can see it traded sideways, retested maybe 60% of that candle, sold off extremely big, and it just ain't been the same ever since. So really, it needs to get back above $38 just to pick up some structure, some bullish structure. But if we're looking at it, it did reclaim an uptrend. That could be a slow trickle effect. Earnings may be able to move it. It's got some news too. Just earnings coming up. So it's tomorrow after close. I can't really call it other than it's reclaim the uptrend. If I had to go out the money and go calls, I would do, let's see, 34.65. You can risk $140. If it goes under 100, I'll enter there. But keep in mind, I'm not an advocate for ER moves. I try to make smart moves from time to time. You feel me? But only way I would play this is if I could catch these $34 calls below $100 because they're already overinflated if they get above 200. So to get your best risk to reward, and buyers actually stepped in heavy on this candle too. This last candle, buyers stepped in heavy for that $34 strike price. So that could be a little hand that they're showing you. That could lead up to something good. But I would look at buying it at 100 or below. If it pops, you'll get a nice risk to reward, maybe like 250 or more, 440. If it goes south, hey, you only risk the $100. If it misses, it's gonna go back down, break back down below this trend, and it could go back down to 28 or 22 to retest the support over here. So if it misses 22, is it 22 or 22.50? I should do 23. So yeah, if it misses these puts at 17, not much money in them. If it pops and it goes in the money, maybe about an $80 profit. They're at 9 cents right now. 75, $100. You probably get nice little $90 pop off of it per contract if that goes in the money. But like I said, it could be hit or miss. It's reclaimed the uptrend, but it's also facing more resistance as far as the chart goes. So all we can do is take calculated risk. Other than that, oh yeah, 723 flat, 722. Well, I wish Spy was down here. I'd lose my shit. 300 IDMs flat, Apple. Ooh, okay. 312. Nvidia's at. All right, Ripple, bro. Catch you next time. Nvidia's at 224. So everything's kind of flat. I don't see anything that's just extremely wild right now. 223. Other than it showing that it's just probably gonna be a mixed market. 335. 592. MSTR is up a little bit. Yeah, so I'm just scrolling through stocks. 171. That's why I said we got in. I started alerting Palantir down here, and we was able to hold for like 3 days, catch the pop. Those contracts went stupid over 1,000%. So like I said, Nvidia could be the next one that we do, but it's gonna have to work with us, not against us. Netflix. So everything's kind of flat right now. Even gold and silver, and they've been popping fairly well. BA 234. Walmart. So, all right, so the 24-hour market just open and everything's kind of sizzling now. So, like I said, right now nothing's happening. Everything's opening flat. It looks like it's gonna be a bit of a mixed market to start the day off. So we're just gonna have to wait, see what the market gives us, and we'll go from there. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. That way, you know, I don't occupy too much of your night. But I appreciate everybody for tapping in, hanging out with your boy, seeing what I got to offer. And we'll get to it once the market shows us which way it wants to go. If it don't give us anything, we'll sit on hands and wait. But if it shows us a breakout in either direction, best believe we pouncing on it. So everybody get a good night's rest, study up. Let's get to the money tomorrow. Peace.
Later, brother.
All right.